Let me tell you something most people won't admit. When a man starts falling deeply in love, it scares him. Not because he doesn't care, not because he's playing games, not because he's playing games, but because love makes a man vulnerable, and vulnerability feels dangerous. See, when a man realizes she matters to me, his whole energy shifts. Now he has something to lose: his pride, his control, his emotional stability. And instead of leaning in, sometimes he steps back. Love makes men feel vulnerable in a way most people don't fully understand. From a young age, many men are conditioned to believe that strength means control, emotional restraint, and independence. They are taught to solve problems, not talk about feelings. They are praised for being tough, not tender. So when a man starts falling deeply in love, something unfamiliar begins to happen inside him. He starts to care in a way that makes him feel exposed, and exposure feels risky. When a man realizes that a woman truly matters to him, the emotional stakes rise. It's no longer casual, it's no longer just fun. Now her opinion carries weight. Her presence affects his mood. Her absence creates a void. That shift can feel overwhelming because for the first time, he understands he has something to lose. Love introduces uncertainty. What if she doesn't feel the same way? What if she leaves? What if he gives his heart fully and it's not handled with care? These questions don't always get spoken out loud, but they echo loudly in his mind. Vulnerability for a man often feels like giving up control. When he's single or emotionally detached, he feels stable and self-contained. But when he falls in love, his emotional world expands beyond himself. Suddenly, his happiness is connected to another person's actions and choices. That can be frightening. It's not weakness, it's unfamiliar territory. Instead of expressing that fear directly, many men instinctively pull back. They create distance to regain a sense of control. It's a protective reflex, not necessarily a lack of love. There's also the pressure of expectation. When feelings deepen, a man may begin to question whether he is enough. Am I successful enough? Strong enough? Strong enough? Stable enough? Can I provide the emotional security she needs? These doubts can intensify as the relationship becomes more serious. Rather than admit insecurity, he may retreat into silence. It feels safer to withdraw than to risk being seen struggling internally. To the outside world, it looks like he's losing interest. In reality, he may be wrestling with the weight of caring so much. Another layer of vulnerability comes from past experiences. If a man has been hurt before, betrayal or rejection leaves a mark. Falling in love again means reopening a door he once closed to protect himself. Even if the current relationship is healthy, the memory of past pain can trigger caution. He might slow down, hesitate, or create space, not because he doubts the person in front of him, but because he fears repeating old wounds. The irony is that the deeper his feelings, the stronger the urge to protect himself can become. Love softens him, and softness can feel dangerous in a world that tells men they must always be firm. But real strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It is the courage to stay present despite it. When a man learns to understand his own fears instead of running from them, love stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like growth. So when a man pulls away as his feelings deepen, it doesn't always mean he's done. Sometimes it means he's standing at the edge of emotional exposure, deciding whether he's brave enough to step forward. Chasing destroys attraction because it shifts the emotional balance in a way that weakens desire. Attraction thrives on mutual interest, curiosity, and a sense of freedom. The moment one person begins to over-pursue, over-text, over-explain, or over-perverve themselves, the dynamic changes. What was once natural and flowing becomes forced and heavy. Instead of two people choosing each other, it starts to feel like one person trying to convince the other. And the truth is, nobody feels deeply attracted to something they didn't have to choose freely. When you chase, you communicate urgency. Urgency often signals fear. Fear of losing, fear of not being enough, fear of being replaced. Even if you never say those words out loud, the energy is felt. Constantly checking in, asking for reassurance, double texting when there's no reply, rearranging your entire schedule to accommodate someone, all of it subtly says, I need this more than you do. Attraction requires equality. The moment the scales tip too far to one side, desire starts fading on the other. There's also a psychological principle at play. People value what they invest in. When someone has to put in effort, think about you, miss you, wonder about you, their emotional attachment grows. But when you remove all mystery and make yourself constantly available, there's no room for curiosity, no space to miss you, no opportunity for them to step forward. Instead of leaning in, they relax back. Human nature doesn't chase what's already chasing them relentlessly. Chasing also creates pressure, and pressure suffocates romance. When someone feels like they are responsible for your emotional stability, it becomes overwhelming. They may start pulling away not because they don't care, but because the weight of being needed too intensely feels like a burden. Healthy attraction feels light, not heavy. It feels chosen, not demanded. The more you try to secure someone through force or persistence, the more they subconsciously resist. Another important factor is self-perception. When you chase, you lower your own perceived value. Confidence is magnetic. Calm assurance says, I know my worth and I'm okay either way. But chasing says, I'm afraid to lose you. Fear is not attractive. Stability is when you maintain your routine, your passions, your friendships, and your goals, regardless of someone's temporary distance, you communicate strength. That strength invites respect, and respect fuels attraction. This doesn't mean you shouldn't show interest or make effort. Balanced pursuit is healthy. Relationships require initiative from both sides. But there's a difference between showing genuine interest and trying to force a connection that isn't being matched. When effort is one-sided, continuing to push doesn't create love, it creates imbalance. Sometimes the most powerful move is stepping back, not as a game, not as manipulation, but as self-respect. Giving space allows clarity. If someone values you, they will notice your absence. If they don't, chasing wouldn't have changed that outcome anyway. Attraction grows in freedom, not pressure. It strengthens when two people move toward each other naturally, not when one is running and the other is being chased. No contact without growth is useless because silence alone does not create transformation. Many people believe that if they just stop calling, stop texting, and disappear for a few weeks, everything will magically reset. They treat no contact like a strategy to make someone miss them, to trigger curiosity, or to win back control. But if nothing changes within you during that silence, then all you've done is pause the story, not rewrite it. When the communication resumes, the same insecurities, the same patterns, and the same emotional reactions will still be there waiting. No contact is powerful only when it becomes a period of self-development rather than silent waiting. If you're checking their social media every hour, replaying old conversations in your mind, or counting the days until they reach out, you are not truly in no contact. You are emotionally still attached, just physically quiet. That energy doesn't shift anything. Growth is what shifts energy. Growth changes posture, tone, decisions, and boundaries. Without that internal change, your absence has no weight. People often misunderstand the purpose of distance. Distance is not meant to punish someone or to manipulate their emotions. It's meant to give clarity. When you step back, you get the opportunity to evaluate yourself honestly. Where did you overextend? Where did you ignore red flags? Where did you compromise your standards just to keep someone? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary. Ride for evolution. If you skip this reflection and simply use no contact as a countdown clock, you miss the entire point. Growth during no contact means rebuilding your sense of identity outside the relationship. It means reconnecting with your goals, your discipline, your physical health, your social circle, and your purpose. When someone becomes the center of your emotional world, you lose balance. No contact gives you space to rebalance. No contact gives you space to rebalance. When you improve your habits, sharpen your mindset, and strengthen your self-worth, you don't just look different, you feel different, and people respond to that difference. There's also a deeper truth. If someone returns, they should meet a stronger version of you, not the same person they left. If nothing has changed, the dynamic will repeat. The same triggers will surface. The same arguments will reappear. Growth ensures that even if reconciliation happens, it happens at a higher level. And if it doesn't happen, you still win because you've elevated yourself. Real growth shifts your attachment style from needy to secure. You stop seeking validation and start operating from value. You no longer fear losing someone because you understand that what is meant for you will align naturally, that Calm confidence is far more powerful than silence alone. Silence without growth is passive. Silence with growth is transformative. Ultimately, no contact is not about getting someone back. It's about getting yourself back. It's about getting yourself back. When you use that time to build strength instead of resentment, clarity instead of obsession, and discipline instead of desperation, you change the outcome regardless of what the other person decides. That is why no contact without growth is empty, but no contact with growth becomes a turning point. Indifference backed by confidence crushes ego because it removes the very fuel ego feeds on: reaction. Ego survives on intent. Ion emotional response is validation and visible impact. When someone believes they still have emotional control over you, their ego feels powerful. They expect you to react, to chase, to argue, to prove something. But when your silence is calm, your energy is steady, and your focus is no longer centered on them, that confidence disrupts their sense of control. It forces them to confront something unexpected. They no longer move you. There's a big difference between fake indifference and real indifference. Fake indifference is loud. It posts for attention. It tries to show how unbothered someone is while secretly hoping to trigger jealousy. That kind of behavior is still reactive, and ego can sense it. Real indifference is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to prove strength because it is strength. When you genuinely detach, not from bitterness, but from self-respect, you stop needing validation from someone who once held emotional weight in your life. Confidence is what makes indifference powerful. Without confidence, indifference can look like insecurity or avoidance. But when you carry yourself with stability, maintain your routine, continue improving your life, and show no urgency to fix or force anything, that sends a clear message. It says, I value myself enough to walk away without chaos. That composure is unsettling to someone who expected you to crumble or compete for their attention. The ego expects drama. It expects pursuit. It expects emotional intensity. When it gets none of that, it begins to question itself. Human psychology is simple in one way. We are most affected by what we cannot control. When someone can predict your reactions, they feel safe in their dominance. If they know a delayed text will make you anxious or a cold reply will make you chase harder, they feel power. But when you respond with neutrality, when you don't escalate, when you don't beg for clarity, you break that predictable pattern. That unpredictability challenges ego more than anger ever could. Anger still shows attachment. Jealousy still shows investment. Over-explaining still shows desire. But calm indifference shows independence. It communicates that your happiness is not dependent on their approval. And that realization hits deeply. Not because you're trying to hurt them, but because you're no longer trying at all. That shift forces reflection. It raises questions in their mind. Why aren't they reacting? Have they moved on? Did I lose my influence? Ego doesn't like losing influence. The key is authenticity. Indifference must come from internal security, not strategy. If you're acting indifferent while secretly waiting for a reaction, you're still emotionally tied. True confidence means you are okay with any outcome, whether they return or disappear. Your direction doesn't change. That stability is magnetic. It commands respect even from someone who may not admit it openly. At the end of the day, love is not a game of control. It's a test of emotional strength. When a man pulls away as he starts falling deeply in love, it's often fear, not lack of feeling. When you chase, you weaken attraction instead of strengthening it. When you use no contact without growth, you only create silence, not change. And when you choose calm indifference backed by real confidence, you reclaim your power without saying a word. The truth is, the strongest position in any relationship is emotional stability, not manipulation, not ego battles. Growth changes the dynamic. Self-respect shifts the energy. Confidence rewrites the outcome. Whether someone comes back or not becomes secondary, because you've already elevated yourself. So the real question isn't how to make them feel something. The real question is, have you built yourself into someone who no longer needs to chase love to feel whole?